just thrilled and delighted that so many of you are here to celebrate and support the Marczewski family. We love the Marczewski family, and I've known this family for about 15 years, and it's been a delight to know Mitch and Sharon, and Mitch, Jane and Andrew and Caitlin. Caitlin, I don't know where she went, but that song was absolutely breathtaking. That was outstanding. I don't know where she went, but my goodness, that was beautiful, wasn't it? Well, we are going to wrap up our service here shortly, but I wanted to share a few things, not just about Jane, but also about the God that she loved, and about the Jesus that Mitch talked about and Andrew talked about, and so many of you have spoken about her faith. The first time I met her, she was already angry and feisty. And I was like, all right, we've got ourselves a little spitfire here. And she was mad that Dad had pulled her out of the church that she loved and was making her go to some new church that was probably filled with weirdos and lamos that weren't going to be cool. So she did. She came to my house to interview me. Like, I got a few questions about this youth group you're in. Which is, as I came to find out, just quintessential Jane. I heard feisty, spirited, chutzpah. I'm never going to try the Polish word, but it was awesome, whatever it was. That was, I came to know and really love this young lady because she was one of the biggest troublemakers I'd ever been around. And I am a troublemaker and have been told that my whole life. So to see like a junior female version was thrilling for me. But at the same time, Mitchell, when you said, her dad said, Jane was challenging to raise, I might say that she was challenging to lead as well. I can completely empathize with the guardrails. Jane loved Jesus. And I've never been around a leader that was as naturally gifted at connecting with young people. She was, Abby said, magnetic. That is, she was magnetic like the North Pole is magnetic. I've never seen someone with such a dynamism with young people. People just wanted to be around her. She was committed. She was like, I want young people to know. I want high school kids to know that following Jesus doesn't have to be this boring, dull, lifeless garbage that's foisted upon people from so many churches today. She was so committed to helping young people know that following Jesus was a life of adventure and fullness. She was amazing at it. She was incredibly ornery. And caused all kinds of trouble. But that was sort of part of her charm too, wasn't it? Most of you that experienced some of her irreverence. My kids woke me up one morning and said, Dad, the car just left the driveway, and apparently they wrote the word dude on our lawn in pancakes. And I looked out the window, and knowing full well it had to have been Jane, I said, buddy, you are reading that upside down. Jane wrote that, and I guarantee you she wrote the word poop on our lawn. Which she said, oh yeah, it was totally poop. Jane also covered my car, bumper to bumper, in pancakes. What was the pancake? But listen, this is what's amazing about that. Do you know how many hundreds of pancakes you need to make to write the word poop on somebody's lawn and cover their car bumper to bumper? There are existent photos of Jane and her little minions, a couple of whom are in here, with just that whiff of a pancake griddle peeking out from behind there. She could convince people to do anything. She's the only person I know that would say, I got a great idea. Let's turn our minivan into cash cab. Let's flip 500 pancakes and spell semi-naughty words on people's lawn. Let's do that. And be able to pull people together. She was at once insanely gifted at ministering to high school and middle school kids about the love of Christ, the full life in Christ. She also pushed the bounds of reverence. And she was a troublemaker, but would always walk that line and, yes, have that smile that let you know she knew exactly what she did and was pretty proud of it. A particular summer, it's already been hinted at, so I'm just going to go after it. We were at summer camp. It was a middle school church camp with a number of other churches there. And the leader of the camp, the head of the camp, pulls me aside one morning. He says, Todd, hey, I just need to let you know something happened last night, and we got to talk to you about it. And I'm like, what? He says, I think some of your campers some of the female campers kind of got out of the cabin after hours. Not that they were like locked in. I mean, they left cabin after hours and apparently were skinny dipping in the lake. And I said, my friend, I have some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is I am 100% confident it was not middle school kids. The bad news is it was my leader, Jane, and two other leaders that she suckered into doing it with her. So I had to go have a conversation with Jane. Jane, even before I talked to Jane, I said to this guy, how did you find out about this? This is where it gets fun. He says, well, apparently there were also some middle school boys that were out wandering around. I don't know who was in charge of security at this camp. I don't know. This was exactly what parents were hoping for. But apparently some middle school boys stumbled upon what must have only seemed to them the greatest thing they'd ever seen in their life, as three naked young women frolicked in the pond. And because their little nuclear hormones, they couldn't wait 20 seconds before telling everyone in their cabin, we saw some girls, they were naked. Saw some middle school girls. So when I went to Jane, I said, Jane, I met Jane when she was 17, and she was involved in a big church in Columbus. And why do you put me in these positions? Why do you do that? And she's kind of smiling, and she goes, actually, I overheard those boys telling their counselor that this is the best church camp they've ever been to. So you're welcome. And I said, pump the brakes there, kiddo. Did you not hear that you were mistaken for a 6th grade girl? That's not funny, Todd. I am a little person. Nonetheless, Jane was, listen, isn't this true? She was amazing. If you ever had a conversation with Jane, she was wonderful at making you feel like she was focused on you. At the same time, have you ever met anyone more enamored of themselves than Jane? Jane had this amazing ability to hold both of these things in tension, so I didn't know whether to be excited or concerned. Just a little while ago, she came and spoke at a women's event here, and I connected with her in the sound booth, and I hadn't seen her in a while, and she gave me a hug. She said, Todd, I'm so glad to see you. I said, oh, thanks, it's good to see you too. She said, I've been thinking about something, and I wanted to let you know. This is going to sound like a brag. Just wait till the end, I promise. She says, Todd, I wanted to tell you something. There's been a lot of men, mentors in my life, but I wanted to tell you how important your opinion has always been, and I've always wanted to make you proud. And I go, oh my gosh, Jane, first of all, that's so nice, that's so touching, and of course, I'm incredibly proud of you. I'm incredibly amazed at watching what you did. Now, you may think, gosh, Todd, sweet brag, hold the phone. 3 weeks later, I hear Girl in a Bubble on the radio, and I send her a text, and I'm like, Jane, just heard your song. Man, I loved it, as with all of them. It was fantastic. I loved the lyrics. I loved the music. You're just doing a great job. Keep being a light of Christ. I'm so grateful for how you're living your life. She responds, who is this? To which I say, Todd. And she says, no, worse. She says, I don't know any Todds. And I said, Jane, Todd Garman. And she laughs, ha 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 ha. I don't know if you know this, Todd. It's really hard to keep track of everyone. I'm pretty famous now. Do you see the tension? That's why Mitch has so much gray. That's why I have so much gray, for Pete's sake. Jane was a marvelously funny person. She was every bit of what I've heard all these people say, selfless as well. She mentored dozens of young women in this county when she was working with our youth group, some of whom are here tonight, because of how important she was. My own daughter's one of them. My own daughter said, Jane helped middle school Hallie know that it was okay to be me. Jane helped middle school Hallie get through middle school, knowing that there was someone that loved me and cared about me and wanted to teach me about Jesus. That continues to be an extraordinary legacy, Mitch. I'd love to hear the stories. When she was in Lynchburg and she would minister to all these neighborhood kids, she was continuing to do it. When she went to Nashville, going into the jail, Jane was certainly other-centered in that way. There's a social media post, I don't know, on one of her, because she's famous, one of her 1,000 channels, but it's a picture of her, a bunch of pictures of her at a youth camp, I think it was 2019, continuing to do ministry with young people, and she says, Youth Camp Jane is the best Jane. And I couldn't agree more. I think we all know, many people know Jane because of Simon's daggum golden buzzer. I think we all understand, many people know Jane as a monstrously talented musician and lyricist. I don't think that was the best part of Jane. I don't think it was. I'm convinced that the greatest part about Jane was her hunger and pursuit of Jesus. In fact, I will go so far as to say this, just like her brother said. If when we think of Jane, our admiration for Jane stops at Jane, we'll be missing something very major, because Jane was a reflection of the Jesus that she loved. The reason she was so magnetic, magnanimous, others-centered, servant-hearted, intentional, was because she was imitating imperfectly the Jesus of the Scriptures. Andrew, I might add, is an imperfect example of Jesus as well, isn't he? That's a young man.
Thanks for watching. Please kindly subscribe to our channel and don't forget to smash the notification bell for more news updates.